Thank you all very much for joining us. I want to welcome you all to this informational meeting. My name is Arthur Vigent, the mayor of the city, and just want to go through a couple things that we plan on touching on tonight before we actually get into a presentation. But some of our committee members are here with me tonight. Chief Kevin Breen's with us. Chief Dave Georgie's with us. Our Assistant Commissioner Ted Scott is with us. Former City Councilor Peter Jouer, who was also a former firefighter. City Councilor Christian Dumas is here. I know Dave Walton from Patriot Ambulance is on the line, and also a retired fire chief from Natick, Richard Fredette, is also with us. He did work on the committee, and firefighter Robert Dolan is also with us tonight. I'm going to touch on a few things and try to answer some general questions. We'll go through a small presentation, like I said, and then go into general questions that any of you have we can touch on. Some of them we may not be able to answer tonight. What we'll do is we'll go back and get some information and get it back to you. The purpose of this is really informational. We want to get you the information you need to feel comfortable how this process started way back a couple of years ago now. Obviously, a lot of the city councilors and myself have been talking about a West Side fire station for a number of years. It was time to put the committee together, and myself and at that time, Council President Ed Clancy put a group together of professionals. I just went through their names, and with a firefighter background that could help us, first of all, identify what the needs are for the city of Marlborough, and also take a look at some locations and see if they have a recommendation of a location. So they started their committee process, having several meetings, and after going through, came up with a few different locations that were going to handle several different areas in the city. Obviously, the west side of town is real important to get to. We have a lot of emergency calls over in the office park. Not many fires, obviously, but in those buildings, they're all pretty much sprinkled and ready to go for any issues that have there, but they do have emergency calls. The fire in one of the areas that we have the most issues with and getting to on a regular basis is down in the Bigelow Street area. A lot of homes down there. Some of them are older homes, and so that was one of the concerns, but we wanted to reach as much of the community with our stations as we possibly could. Also, a quarter mile up the road, one of our committee members, Bob Dolan, is living up the street, and right down the road on Bigelow Street, again, one of our committee members, Peter Jouer, lives down that way. So they're pretty familiar with the area down there. Some of the areas that were talked about and discussed, we actually had a pad location down on Lower Glen Street that was actually part of a mitigation through the city council years ago. And that location was actually set up as a possibility. To make that work, first of all, it's only going to take care of the office park area, and we would have to open up the Glen Street dead end down there to get trucks through. No matter where it is down in that area, we would have to be utilizing Glen Street to get across the way. So, but again, we'll get into some of the different locations and answer some of your questions on why some didn't work. I also want to let everyone know that all of our city councilors are on this call tonight. They will not be participating. It is not, they have open meeting law issues, so they will not be participating in this format. They will all be, I promise you, participating once something goes to the city council for approval. They'll be having substantial discussions about, you know, whatever I send down at the time, whether it's to negotiate a piece of property or whether it's to prove some money for a location for a station. So just to go through some of the findings that in the recommendations that the committee came up with, I'll turn it over to Chief Breen to kind of touch on some of those before we continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening and welcome to our fire station public input session. My name is Kevin Breen. It's my privilege to serve as Marlborough's fire chief. Are we going to share the screen?
Yeah.
So you'll probably hear my voice, but you should all see up on the screen. We'll try and go through some of the slides that we prepared in an effort to share information tonight. So this presentation format will be followed by a question and answer period. But collectively, we hope to provide a general overview of the city's plan to construct a new fire station in the western portion of our city near Elm and Bigelow. So as the mayor already said, the Fire Station Committee met numerous times over several months and ultimately produced a report with a series of recommendations. The recommendations are listed and include the following. And I won't read them all, but some of them are worthy of review. First and foremost, that we should proceed without delay to construct a new fire station. And the committee supported a sequenced, phased approach encompassing land acquisition, associated infrastructure, engineering, site work, design, and architectural services, followed by bid and project award, and finally construction. We mention that because this doesn't happen overnight. It's a multiple year project, and right now we are in the process of land acquisition. So regardless, we still have a little bit of a journey. We contracted with an architectural firm, Context Architectural Group, and they assisted us in reviewing sites and made a strong recommendation that a fire station to suit the needs of the city should be situated on a landmass of 5 acres in size. We also had considerable discussion about Pleasant Street Station, our existing station number 2. There's been some discussion citywide about whether or not any type of new fire station would give us an opportunity to use what we call a 4-station configuration in the city or to remain a 3-station configuration. One of the important things to review is response times. So the committee recommends selecting a site that would ensure acceptable response times to the area currently served by Station 2, which is on Pleasant Street. As the mayor already said, we reviewed several sites located west of 495, and we'll show those to you on the map. And then before we change slides, based upon input that we received, any public safety facility of this magnitude should be designed to serve the citizenry for at least 50 years. So we need to look ahead at the area that this station would be situated in, particularly with the growth that's going on, not only now, but in the future. It's important to note that this is not proposed as just being an additional station where we're just going to transfer an engine company. And you'll see in an upcoming slide where the majority of calls in the city of Marlborough actually originate within the boundaries of the western portion. So if you go to if you forward through these recommendations, and we'll go back. Let's stop at that one. So the previous slide. So this is a history of our incidents in terms of emergency events in the city in the last 10 years. I think the graph speaks for itself. We've had a tremendous increase in demands for service over the last 10 years. All of this is prompting us to review our apparatus and our staffing levels. So the next slide. This is where your current fire stations are in the city of Marlborough. Each fire station is designated by the red dot. Those circles represent a 1.5-mile radius from each fire station. You'll see as they're identified, Station 2, HQ standing for headquarters, or Station 1, and Station 3, which is in Easton Marlborough on Boston Post Road. So those are our existing stations. And next slide. These are the response districts. So your fire department is organized where a call originating in either of these districts prompts which station will be the first to respond or the first due. So what I would like to explain to everybody as we progress with selecting sites is when you're talking about responding and calls originating from the districts, typically in a fire department, your headquarters station, shown in Station 1, You would think that a station that has most of the personnel, most of the on-duty personnel, including most of the department's assets or resources in terms of trucks, you would think that most of the calls would originate in the center in that primary district. That's just not the case. So if we go to the next slide. So this is how the allocation of calls in the city of Marlborough is actually depicted in this pie graph. Almost 50% of all the calls or emergency incidents in the city occur within Station 2's district. Station 2's district, this is noteworthy because it has the highest percentage of calls, and since it equates to almost half of the calls we're experiencing as a fire department, that includes everything that's in the western part of the city of Marlborough. The second busiest district is Station 3, with approximately 29% of call. And then finally, headquarters, where the majority of personnel and resources are situated, they have the fewest calls originating from that response district, approximately 26%. The significance of that has to be understood in that this is an opportunity to reallocate resources in the city. If the majority of calls and the majority of growth and development is occurring in that portion of the city, that's really where our resources should be situated, because everything is about response times when it comes to responding for EMS calls as well as fire calls. So as we now will show you some of the places that we looked at with respect to station locations, you'll get a better sense of the coverage based upon where we investigated particular site locations. So if we were to locate a station at Ames Street, at Route 20, the slide is representing the red dots of the existing station, and then the green dot and the green circle represents, if you will place a station there, you would see the 1.5 mile radius for a new station if situated. What you should be looking at is areas of the city that's not covered. And you should have a good representation of that as you look at these upcoming slides. So the next location. Did we miss one in the beginning? Okay. So on this, we're looking at Glen Street at Ames. Again, you can see the same, the existing locations. And if we had that, which the mayor referred to, Glen Street at Ames, that corner, that's what you would look at for coverage. Next slide. This is Hayes Memorial at Route 20. You can see, please note that the majority of the coverage, or a large portion, extends into Northborough. When you're looking at fire stations, that's something you want to be cautious of, where you're actually providing coverage to other communities. It's not centrally located within your boundaries. Next slide. This is Felton Street at Landry, an ideal location. It's right along Route 20. We had looked at that location as well. And then the last slide. I'm sorry, this is another piece of property, very small, Northborough Road at Dudley Street. We were reviewing that piece of property. And then finally, this is the property that we're here to discuss tonight. This is Felton Street, identified in this as Felton Street at Elm Street, or more accurately, Elm Street at Bigelow. And you can see the coverage that provides with respect to the existing stations. So please note the existing Station 2, the red dot to the left, the furthest red dot on the left, that's existing Station 2 on Pleasant Street. And you can look to see the coverage, how coverage would be maintained in most areas when you look at Station 3, headquarters Station 1, and then any new station in that area. So, if we go back to the slide that starts within the past decade, it should be right after the recommendations. Good. So one of the things we want to review in terms of needs that the committee looked at is in terms of growth and development, current need, and being able to respond to changes citywide. We have in development or already approved and constructed over 1,000 apartments in the vicinity of and or west of Route 495. Obviously, we all are aware of the Apex Center. This project continues to flourish and contributes to increased demands for emergency services. In terms of hotels, there are 11 hotels in the city of Marlborough, and 10 of those hotels are west of 495. One, of course, is east of 495, but is actually abutting 495. That's the Holiday Inn. So that they're essentially all at 495 or west, and there are 1,900 rooms available in the 11 hotels. And in terms of what I've already stated about the Pleasant Street station, it continues to be problematic in terms of available space. The station was built more than 100 years ago. It's very difficult to house modern fire apparatus. There's limited space in terms of parking, and future expansion is it's problematic. Probably not possible there on that particular site. So those were some of the conditions that drove us and came to some of our recommendations for a committee. I'm gonna pause and not show every slide. I think it's important that we transfer into the question and answer period. And if anything comes up that I think the slides will be helpful, we'll transition to those slides for information. But I think it's important now to give everybody, all the participants, an opportunity to ask questions and participate. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So what I would like to do is open it up for question and answers. I ask you to just state your name so we have a record of it, and your address. So again, we can kind of take a look at your individual concerns. We're going to use the raise hand function again, Scott?
Absolutely.
Yep, good. So we're going to use the raise hand function, and like I said, things that we can't answer for you now, we will be getting back to you. And I assure you, the 11 city councilors are all listening and also paying attention. So with that, are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions?
Is it Julia?
Yes.
Julia?
My name is Julia M. Lopez Maldonado. I am this crazy mama who had the nerve to run for little local office because this issue has been a pervasive issue for so many years. And I also realize that many firefighters and police department and people in the community want to run to bring awareness to this situation. And so on that note, I just wanted to participate and let you know that I am so proud that everybody's working so diligently on this. Now, given the fact, this is my question, given the fact that this has been on the table for so long, what is the projection for this project? Are we talking about 5 other years, 2 other years, 1 other year of construction and development? Do you have like a timeline, or is this just in the fresh primary phases of discussion?
No, as the committee said, we want to keep moving forward on it. The next step would be to get authorization from the city council to move forward on negotiating a parcel of land. And I want to touch on that parcel of land for a sec once I'm done, but in start negotiating a parcel of land. If that is successful, we'd be purchasing the land and starting to move forward into design, probably in construction within the next 12 to 18 months.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish you the best. Thank you.
Okay. I do want to bring up the piece of land because there were some questions when we purchased the house down on Elm Street. So we had really no intention on purchasing that. It was something that was brought to my attention when the committee was doing their study and took a look at it and said, if this is the location that it's going to go in, which would be that large parking lot next to it, we would need some additional space, which means the property next to it, which includes the house. We kind of took that and took the information down, but the house had not been for sale, so we weren't going to pursue it till we were ready to pursue the purchase development of the station. The house came on the market. it was brought to our attention, it was put on the market, and we had discussions about buying the property, either leasing out the house for a short period of time or raising the house to make the entire lot a little bit larger. I felt very uncomfortable in, one, allowing someone else to buy it and coming back to them a year later and say, we're going to take it by eminent domain and try to negotiate with them. So what we came up with the support of the city council and working with the MEDC, we purchased the property and carved off the minimum lot size, keeping the rest of the property for the potential of the fire station site. So we ended up reselling the house. It's being utilized by a family now in the city, so we're excited about that. But luckily, the house won't be touched, and we will be getting this on the balance of the property. If everything fits the way we're looking at right now, we should be fine. But that's the story on the house right there. So I know there was questions about using that particular lot for the fire station. Obviously, it's not large enough for a fire station. We're looking at close to 5 acres to make it work. But I just wanted to kind of clarify why we purchased the lot. In the meantime, the MEDC has transferred the lot to the city and transferred the check for the sale of the real estate. So, Todd, I know you had a question out there.
Yes, hi, I'm Todd.
Could you just state your last name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Todd DeCruz. I live at 53 Elm Heights Terrace, not too far from where this station is going to be going in. And I agree it's something that's needed on this side of town. My question was, are there any preliminary site plans? Like, where would the access to the station come from? Elm Street or come from Bigelow? Or, I mean, that's kind of curious how that would be laid out.
I can show you a sketch, and I want to clarify that this sketch is really a draft form. It was just to allow us some idea of what kind of space we would need to put a station there. So we'll put this up so everyone can take a look at it. And the last slide, or the second or third to the last slide, second to the last slide. And again, this is completely conceptual. Back one, there you go. So if you look at the bottom of the slide, that's on Elm Street, in part of the lot that we purchased, that the house on Elm Street, and that's approximately the line where the stone wall is now. And then it would go around onto that parking lot for the property that's on Lock Drive. But again, this is completely conceptual. I hesitate to put it out there, but I wanted to give some indication of what type of space we were looking at. And that's a 4-bay fire station in the middle there. Ted, I don't know if you have anything to add to that as far as, because I know we did these a while back.
Yeah, no, that's where it stands now, yeah.
And we've done nothing to update these, we've done nothing to change these, we've done nothing to advance these at this point.
Could the rear entrance go out onto Block Drive?
I don't know that.
No, there's wetlands below.
Gene?
And the grade drops off sharply as well.
Gene?
Todd had another question.
Oh, Todd, okay. Todd, you have another question?
Yeah, well, based on that, so it looks like you have entrances coming off of both Elm and Bigelow. Is that correct?
There'd be an entrance on both Elm and Bigelow, yes.
So would there be any signaling, or that's too early to tell whether you'd be
No,
putting something like that in? Or?
At this point, we wouldn't be able to answer that.
Yeah.
Is it Jean Guest?
Jean?
Yes. My name is Jean Douglas, and I'm on 475 Elm Street. And I respectfully understand that you need a fire station on the west side. But I am a potential abutter, and I guess I'm concerned because I too own a single family historic house, and I've been concerned about the noise, the light pollution, and again, more traffic pulling out right on this bad corner. This is, as you know, a residential area, and we are very concerned about the impact of this on our whole neighborhood.
Thank you. I don't know if Chief, if someone can address, you know, the noise, the sirens, I mean, that's a concern, and the fire service has changed so much, so I'll let the chief kind of answer some of that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you, Jean, for your comments and your questions. I guess I would respond this way. First and foremost, it's important that I say this. We want to be good neighbors, and we have a history of being good neighbors. Fire departments are typically, welcomed into a neighborhood because we really take care of the property and we are good neighbors. With respect to the noise, so the perception and the mindset is that, there's a constant buzz of sirens and air horns and noise, and that's just not the case. Air horns and sirens are utilized by the operator. There's no policy. I've received this question in the period of time that we've been preparing this report. There's no policy that requires us to use sirens for every call. It's usually the discretion of the operator and or the officer in the front seat. With respect to signalization, I will tell you that signalization is required, but not as an intersection. It will be required some overhead lighting and or on a stanchion to indicate when a fire apparatus is leaving a station. So there would be some signalization, but it's more or less just a flashing warning. The benefit of that is it controls traffic and allows us to enter and exit without any noise. So every modern fire station is now under the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices requires some type of signalization to allow that exit or egress to respond so that you don't have sirens and air horns. It's actually an orderly process and it's not really noisy at all. With respect to lighting on a property, that's all a design feature so that it doesn't intrude on abutting properties, and that's something we would be focused on and certainly very sensitive to.
Thank you for your response. I'm also concerned that if I were to leave my house, relocate, would we have to disclose this plan to any potential buyers of my house?
I can tell you this, Jean, that we weren't required to do it with the property that we sold on Elm Street, but we did let all potential buyers know. So, and I think we had 3 or 4 potential buyers, but we did let them know that this was potential, and that was the reason that the city had done what it did with the land.
There's a Mike Harris.
Mike?
Yeah, hi, Mr. Mayor and Chief. Thanks for holding this. Mike Harris, I live at 70 Bigelow Street. I don't have a question, just a comment. I'm pretty jazzed up about this. I come from a family full of firefighters, and I was kind of excited when I heard about this. we're kind of directly across the street from the project. Especially looking at your presentation, Chief, about response times on this side of the city. I think this is a benefit to the neighborhood and to the area, and gonna kind of decrease response times. And probably, from what I can see from looking at the city, it's kind of the most out of the way, quote unquote, spot possible. So I'm pretty excited about this. So thanks for holding this this discussion and letting everybody talk about it, and just wanted to voice my support.
Thanks, Mike. Kate Duffy.
Hey, I just wanted to thank you, Chief and Mayor, for holding this. And I also live on Bigelow Street at 276 Bigelow, and I support this. My father was is a retired firefighter, and my brother-in-law is a firefighter. And my parents' house actually just burnt down, and one of the problems was, it would have burnt down anyways, but response time, because they live at the edge of the community that we lived in. So I just wanted to echo what Mike was saying and say that I completely support this, as well as being not quite as close as I didn't catch her name, the lady that was speaking, but just down the road, particularly as Donald Lynch Boulevard gets developed. We may need more services. I think when I watched the development video, they had suggested possibly 400 units could go in to that region in the future. Not now, but in the future. That's 400 more possible responses, people to families to be calling, right? So anyways, I just wanted to say I support this, and thank you guys very much for getting this done, because response time is important. If you have a heart attack, every second matters getting to the hospital.
Thank you. Anna?
Hi, thank you. So one of the slides that you guys went quickly through, there was mention of a training center. We've also heard rumors about there possibly being a burn tower at the Can you address that?
The training center portion of the chief.
Yeah, third slide of the recommendations.
Yeah, it's not here.
Slide number 4.
So while we pull the slide up, we'll pull it up so that you can follow along. One of the things the committee recommended that constructing a new station should consider the following, and I'll go over those: a communication center, or a PSAP, a PSAP, a public safety answering point. One of the things that would benefit in the city is we would be able to upgrade our communication center, which currently exists in the in the police station on Bolton Street. It's grossly undersized. It needs modernization. This would allow us to establish a new code-compliant communication center in accordance with NFPA 1221. Also, we think the community should consider a training room capability. The future of training in terms of the fire station is having, classroom size and IT capability to receive training while you're in your station, rather than all assembling in one particular area of a town. A community room is another asset built with most new fire stations today. Of course, the training room could be converted into emergency operations center, which services the entire city. Police station, substation capability, and opportunity for police officers who are en route during their route to stop and do paperwork, use the computer, or do whatever they need to do while out on patrol, so they don't have to respond back to Bolton Street. Again, these are considerations that should be incorporated or discussed as part of any new fire station facility. Vehicle repair maintenance, the capability in terms of elevation, so you can repair your trucks. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a mechanic bay, but it does give you the opportunity in design so that if your trucks have to be elevated for general maintenance or preventative maintenance, you have that capability. And then indoor and outdoor training props. While the state is very strict about maintaining burning, you can't just have burning outdoors as a prop. You need permission to do that. That's why they only do it in Stowe at the Fire Academy. but you could incorporate into the design training props. For instance, you could have, you know, a corner of the building that has anchor points that, while in the back parking lot away from public view, you could do rappelling or rope rescue or things of that nature. And you can have, you know, assorted training props that are behind the station at ground level that certainly don't mean that you're burning any types of fluids or smoke generation or anything like that. So those are some of the considerations that we discussed as part of the committee, and I think it's a great point, and I thank you for your question.
Anna, they also threw in $1.5 million ladder truck that they tried to slip in there. Who's up, Scott?
There are no current questions.
Any additional questions?
There is a phone number, though.
What's it?
Phone number that ends in 4330. You can press *6 to unmute yourself if you have a question.
Is telephone number ending in 4330. Do you have a question? Please press *6 if you have a question to throw our way.
No, I was only concerned about where the entrances and exits were.
Okay, did you see the map that we had put up there? The graphic?
I did, but I wasn't sure.
And again, that's completely conceptual. I just don't want everyone to get focused on that and talk about the fact we have to move the entrance 50 feet, because this was really a first draft just to get us some idea of what we would need for property for it.
So you're looking to, if you had to go down towards the mall, you would exit out onto Bigelow.
You can't do that.
If you look to come out somewhere else, you'd
Stay
come
muted.
on Elm Street.
Again, I don't think.
I think you still have to be muted.
I don't think we can answer. I don't think we can answer what would be the in and what would be the out, or how many lanes at this point.
Okay.
That would come later with design.
There is a new.
Ray, did you have a question?
Yes, my name is Ray Lombardi. We live at 877 Elm Street. And listening to this discussion, it sounds like this location at Bigelow and Elm Street is a done deal. And I'm wondering, is it the cost of the land that's giving this one preference? It seems to me that a location on Route 20 like Ames or Hayes Memorial, you got a lot of development there already and probably more to come, and better access via Route 20.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's not a done deal. But the reason it's to this point is, like I said, the house had come up for sale. And if this was this was the highest recommendation from the committee, we wanted to kind of carve off that parcel that we needed to put the whole lot together. As far as being out on Route 20, obviously they can go east and west on Route 20 a lot quicker and get into the office park a lot quicker. But I think one of the concerns is the response time down in the Bigelow Street neighborhood. And that's been a big concern of the chief and chiefs before him and many of the firefighters in the past. So that's really what the goal was, to try to get much better access, as we showed with the diagram with the 1.5 mile diameter, is to their preference to getting a vehicle down there. That's why this location was recommended by the committee. But no, it is not a done deal. But for someone that's been involved in finding parcels, we went through it for a senior center, we went through it for a school, and now we're going through it for a fire station. When you start taking all the locations for the school itself, I think we had 14 to 18 locations, and for one reason or another, they were knocked out along the way, and that's why we ended up on Poria Drive as we did. And again, the chief and the committee went through several different locations, and those were the different graphics that we put up there. But this is the beginning of the process to identify a location to take the next step and get this station moving.
Okay, well, thanks for that answer, and thank you for making this presentation accessible to us all.
Other questions? Who has another question?
Yeah, that's good.
Does someone have another question? We kind of hear someone in there, but how are we doing, Scott?
There is no hands up at this time.
And this location here also gives us good access to the highways too.
Yeah.
You know?
As firefighter Dolan just said, it gives, closer access to the highway for the emergencies that go out that way. So other questions? Does anyone have any other questions? And again, this is the first step. So you can forward additional questions to my office. You can file additional questions to the city council. And our next step will be going to the city council to ask for some support on this to allow us to start negotiating. Judy, did you have a question?
Yeah, my name's Judy Foley, and I live at 459 Elm Street. And I think this fire station is probably a really good idea. My main concern is the entrance onto Elm Street. It seems like in the past 8 years since I've lived here, the traffic has escalated to the point where it's like living on the abutment of 495. And I know that, you feel that the access to the highway is going to be easier for you, and the access to the other parts of the Northborough end of Marlborough is going to be easier. But I really don't see how, with all these windy little side streets, nice tree-lined streets, residential neighborhoods, how that's going to be an advantage. How is that going to be easier with this entrance coming out onto Elm Street? And that's very concerning to me, because I'm pretty much sick of the noise and the traffic out here and the cars that go zipping up and down the street. And to have a fire station added to that mix, that just disturbs me. So that's just one girl's opinion.
No, I appreciate that. As far as the back roads and the tiny roads, the only thing I could say is that's what they have to navigate every day to get to those locations. So, but again, we need to hear the feedback to see how many of these things we can address to get the neighborhood comfortable with it. So thank you. Other questions? George. George, did you have a question?
George, we'll need to unmic your microphone, unmute your microphone.
Oh, yeah, okay, I got it. I live at 79 Neshoba Drive. I share the same concerns that she just mentioned. I'm wondering about one other thing. What's the size of this proposed lot? You mentioned that an ideal size would be 5 acres. What's the size of this one that you show here?
Do you have that there?
There is no size. This is just conceptual. The reason this is conceptual is to show, can this fit on the lot and how much impact it would have to that commercial property. So we don't have that tied down. And the 5 acres that the design individual comes up with is there is some of that lot is non-usable, like there will be in this one, based upon topography, and in this case we have some wetlands. So we don't really have a hard and fast number on that right now.
I can tell you this, George, that I believe the lot that we purchased was about 35,000 square feet is the portion that, we don't have that. I think it was approximately 35,000 square feet. So about 3/4 of an acre for the portion that the city has purchased. So we're in the 5-acre range. The goal would be to try to, the building that actually owns this parking lot, the goal would be to make sure that they have enough parking after we split off a piece. They have enough parking to sufficiently cover their office space that they have on Lock Drive. So they have an oversized lot right now. So, and again, although we've reached out to them probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, we've had no contact with them since then. So it's, again, this isn't like it's all negotiated. This is the first step, so.
Okay, thank you.
Todd, did you have another question?
Yeah, so I guess my other question is, what's the next step? You said talk about going to city council. I mean, when would a more less preliminary site plan be developed, and what's the next steps here, I guess?
I believe our next step would be to go to the city council to allow me to negotiate with the owner. And after the parcel was purchased, then we would start designing as far as laying out, you know, what a station would look like on there as far as the layout goes. Design would come after that, but the next step would be to go to the city council to ask for support to negotiate with the landowner.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And would there be more public input once the site plans are more developed, or how does that normally work?
I'm sure that the city councilors will be more than available to anyone that has any questions. And like I said, additional questions can come through my office also. Again, we're trying to be as transparent as possible to provide all the information we can to you, to try to explain that this is going to be a good thing for the neighborhood. So. Mike?
Sorry, Mike Farrell. I'm on Felton Street, right at the end there at the corner. I was curious, is it possible to negotiate as a part of this, like advanced signaling, as in, do you know how some intersections have you're approaching a stop light indication? Just to encourage, obviously, same thing, the good neighbor policy, less sirens, less, the lights don't bother me. I see them all the time anyway already, but it would probably just be the increase in sirens. So I was wondering if there's a way to negotiate part of the station, improvements to that intersection and the signal system for it.
I'm going to let the chief hit this one, but I believe we should have that switch in all the vehicles, correct?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great question, Mike. Each signal, it's an option that we have the capability in the city, but we use a device called an Opticom system. It's an emitter that's installed on all fire apparatus, and it emits a signal, a light signal, if you will, that takes over the intersection light and turns whichever approaching apparatus activates it. It turns the signal green in advance and makes all the other parts of the intersection red. So both police and fire operate this system, and it would be utilized here. You can also use it in the station, so you can set up an emitter and a receiver as you're exiting a station. You can actually hit a button and it will turn all the signals in that area to whatever you want. So it could be a combination of red or green or whatever, again, to control the flow of traffic and to minimize any of the noise and or, it's mainly for safety. We don't like, I'm not a noise guy. I'm not a siren guy.
Oh, no, I understand.
Like noise. So what we like is cars to stop, to allow us to exit without noise and to get to where we're going as quickly as possible. But that's a great point.
I understand the Opticom and how that works, and I support that. What I was just thinking is, I don't know how familiar you are with Felton right there, where cars approaching Elm Street, they're just quick. So I was just wondering, I don't know if you've ever seen the triangle sign where it basically says you're approaching A, and then they'll light up. You're going to be approaching a stop. I was wondering if they could incorporate something like that just to encourage people to slow down approaching that intersection, more so for fire truck safety than for, you know, I just think that'd be a safety.
Sirens are just more of getting the people to move and don't obey the lights.
All of those things are possibilities. I will defer to the engineering department with respect to the way you tie signals in, but all of those in terms of intelligent traffic systems, all of that's possible. So I think it's a good point.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Anyone else have any questions? Well, again, I just want to thank everyone for participating tonight, to our committee, to our council, and to all of you for hitting us with the questions you did. This is the first step. We will take additional questions. The council is going to stay on top of this. My office will take additional questions. Please feel free to send them our way at any time. You don't have to wait for a meeting or anything to get your point across or to ask and clarify something. You can just forward us the questions along the way. But thank you all very much. Have a good night and stay safe.